Thanks. Dr. Niffling, anything?
I believe my comments will largely reinforce what's been said. I think much can be accomplished in the near term to validate these concepts that we've talked about. And we're very confident that, that they will be validated one way or the other. We can adapt to what we learn. But I think that the promise of what we learn will actually provide testimony for further extension in the future of the space station in one way or another.
Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank the gentleman. Chair recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Rohrbacher, who's one of the most dedicated and consistent supporters of this committee and always has a knack for peering over the horizon and bringing some really creative thinking to NASA and how we promote our space program both in the private and public sectors. Mr. Rohrbacher.
Thank you. Let me note that I've supported the space station I see the space station as a success in the sense that we have learned how to build structures in space. And if humankind is to advance, if we are going to conquer this frontier, that we need to know how to do that, and we have learned how to do that. And we've learned how to cooperate with other countries in achieving that. I'm not sure, even from the testimony today, however, that the accomplishments that are being talked about have been accomplished. I mean, in terms of medical research, all along we were told that there would be these great accomplishments. It's been a long time. Frankly, they have not been validated yet. I've heard a lot of rhetoric today, but I've been listening to that rhetoric for 20 years. I'm satisfied with the fact that we now have the capabilities of building structures in space. I would hope they're not just pyramids. I hope this isn't just a pyramid that will show an historic structure. I hope that there is something that comes out of it in terms of a cure for a disease. Believe me, I've been listening to that for 10 years. I haven't seen it yet. Your comment, Mr. Pickens, about that there's plenty of lab space up there and some value to be made from that as a businessman. I appreciated that. Is the research facility that is in the space station, the various labs that you've talked about, are they outfitted for the type of research that's necessary to validate the things that we've heard today?
The way they have it set up is that other than the fact that the Columbus module has an X-ray crystallography machine that they have sent up with that, so you can actually do you can do the diffraction from the crystals off the protein crystal growth from that piece of equipment. Basically what they did is they set up these things that they call express racks, which are really data feeds, power feeds. They're just set up for you. And what they do is they take it out of whatever the visiting vehicle is, and then they put it in and they slide it in there, and they flip on a button, and then from that they control everything from the ground operations. And yes, it's all there. I mean, they put that very modularly in place, and they have done that. So yes.
Is that the same answer I'm getting for the other panelists too? Are these labs properly outfitted? Dr. Nickerson, you've been very optimistic about these great achievements that are about to happen. Are we outfitted up there to make sure that we can actually achieve those things?
There are, of course, a number of cuts that were made to important research infrastructure that was supposed to be installed on ISS, the centrifugation, things like that. It would be very nice if those things could be up there.
Could you give me a couple examples of that?
In terms of how they could be used?
No, in terms of what needs to be replaced so we can start thinking about financing it.
So it'd be nice to have the centrifugation facility up there.
A what now?
The centrifuge.
Centrifuge, okay.
Right. It'd be nice to have some very nice imaging capabilities on board in terms of abilities to image very small cells, like microscopic imaging. It'd be very nice to have that up there so we can see in real time exactly how these cells are manifesting their changes.
Are there any plans to put a microscopic? I know about the centrifuge issue.
There were, but those plans were scrapped. It was being those plans were in place, but I know those funds were cut. For a long time, I know with the Melfi, there was a question, and we need to be able to have for long-term work on ISS, capabilities to store at -80. And I know after much time, the Melfi, I think, is finally fully operational up there in terms of the freezer capabilities. But when we're going to be on terms of a long-term research on ISS, we need those kinds of capabilities. Some samples we want to store, some we want to keep viable. When we store them, we need to make sure that they're stored viably and their integrity is preserved.
Okay, so we need storage and something to do microscopic imaging.
Yeah.
And I know that the centrifuge debate was a big debate early
Right.
on, and it was a major, not just a small investment
Right.
there, it's huge. But
That is one reason, though, that leads to, and your question was well-founded, is that you've heard about this rhetoric for a long period of time. It's going to lead to these advances, going to lead to these advances. But in all honesty, the reason you haven't seen that is some of those capabilities are now being able to be put in place and be done. And with our study, it was a biological first. It was the first time that spaceflight had ever been looked at on its ability to affect disease-causing potential. It was the first time that a pathogen had ever been looked at in terms of a complete molecular global profiling and look at changing its virulence. So those kinds of things, until you can translate that, and we just, by the way, repeated that, so we do have biological validation on STS-123.
well, as I say, I think we learned a lot of how to build structures, and
Right.
I think that in and of itself is for humankind and how to cooperate internationally.
But to have
That's
those
right.
additional capabilities
That's
would be
good.
helpful.
But I would sure hope that we see some of the things that you've been talking about. I've heard this before, and I hope it's validated, like we say. And if we, Mr. Chairman, if we need a couple of things to add to the space station to see that it actually accomplishes it, $100 billion that we've spent, if we're talking about tens of millions of dollars to get some of these things up there, it might be a very fine investment. Thank you very much.
I thank the gentleman from California for his insightful questions and commentary. Unfortunately, we need to move to the second panel. I know everybody on the dais